Good morning, friends. Thank you for joining me for today's segment of Cichlids and Coffee. And wherever you are, hope you're drinking out of one of these. 10 a.m. here in Nashville, Tennessee. It's supposed to get down to 10 degrees. So I'll probably be staying indoors today. And so it's a good day to do fish stuff. So let's see who we have on board here. Hey, GP, my wonderful moderators. GP, looks like Denny's here, and Candi. Welcome to the best moderators on YouTube. And let's see who else is here. EKOED. Corey said he never floated Africans in the tank. Brings out pre-aggression. Wow, we'll get back to that later. EKOD, welcome to the live stream. MJV Aquatics, welcome to the live stream. And I'm glad you didn't fall asleep. Hope you're still awake. Audio is good. Thank you. Thank you, Candi. I'm using a new filter on the audio so that when I don't talk, you don't get background noise. So I hope it's working. And Chevy Fish is here, and Kijeld, Slavist, Overguard. I'm glad you love the channel, and welcome to the live stream to you, my friend. Leon is here. Suzra, Alejandro Hernandez. Hello, Alejandro. And Chevy Fish, Richard Lewis, and Michelle. And hey, Tony. Tony is here. David Oliveira. Excellent. Okay, so I just wanted to welcome some of you and then get off of the chat because, of course, the chat can be very, very distracting, and I'll spend all day just saying hello to everybody. So wouldn't be the worst thing, but not what a lot of you came here to listen to. So we do have a lot to talk about today, and I want to go ahead and get right in it. Before I do, one reminder, quick reminder, that I am still offering a $25 Cichlid Shack gift certificate. And that'll be for the biggest super chat today. Super chats are your way of supporting the channel, and they're provided to us by our friends over at the Cichlid Shack. And we'll include one of these real nice Cichlid Shack stickers and a $25 gift certificate for anyone who has the top super chat today. And as an extra bonus, I'm going to throw in one of these. These are the Aquarium Co-op fish room towels. These things are the bomb. And have you ever had to dry something up around your aquarium? These towels actually do absorb, and they're great. So top super chat gets a gift certificate from the Cichlid Shack and a towel from the Aquarium Co-op and a real nice sticker. So just so you know, just to make it interesting. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and officially start this this live stream. If you're new to the channel and you like to always be learning about taking better care of our fish, tips and tricks and hacks and all that good stuff, be sure to hit that bell and sub and all that good stuff. It tells YouTube that you're enjoying the content, and then it makes it more likely that YouTube will recommend the channel to other fish keepers, and it's very, very appreciated. If you would like to support the channel beyond super chats and beyond you just being here watching the videos, which is a great way to support the channel and very appreciated, you can also use my Amazon link when you go to Amazon to get things either from my store or anywhere on Amazon, and that helps the channel with a very small commission, and doesn't change or increase your price at all. Also, you can go to Teespring and pick up things like this, cups and hoodies and t-shirts and all kinds of good stuff. And And that's the commercial, along with one special announcement. Just a big thank you to the Cichlid Shack for being one of the sponsors of the channel, and the help from James at the Cichlid Shack is very much appreciated. And don't forget, if you go to the Cichlid Shack, use the Shack Attack 10, and that will give you a 10% discount at checkout. So don't forget about that. And of course, we are doing that $25 gift certificate to the Cichlid Shack for the top super chat today. So let's get right into what I want to talk with you about today. You know, when you, in the past, and I'm going to be talking about this a lot tomorrow in a video that's coming out, and it talks about ammonia spikes and adding too much too soon. And, you know, traditionally, I've never added more than between 2 and 6 fish. And that's been sort of my limit. And when I've done that, it's usually been to a tank that's had maybe 3 or 4 fish in it, maybe 5 fish for a while. So the tank was already somewhat established, had a pretty good, I imagine, pretty good bacteria colony going already. And, but, you know, I received a very large shipment, as you saw in that video, the unboxing video. I received a very large shipment from the Cichlid Shack. And so I went ahead and I put them all in. And there are some things that I learned right away. First of all, let me say that nobody has died. Everybody is still alive and well and over my shoulder, but one of them is actually in quarantine. When the fish first arrived, the flametail and the deep water hap both looked very, very exhausted from the trip, and were suffering a little bit of tattering on their fins. I was really thinking, and even James, when he saw a video of it, suggested that perhaps the flametail should go into a separate tank for a little while. Well, the flametail bounced back, and so did the deep water. But then what happened is I ended up with this odd circumstance. And I made a little video here, and if you're a little squeamish about fish disease, you might want to turn away for a second. But you know, fish damage. But this is the Benga sunshine. And I woke up one morning after not seeing any violence at all, any real super aggressive violence, the kind that damages the fish. I wasn't seeing any of it. And I wake up the next morning, and his tail, you can see his tail here. It's just destroyed. And I mean, it's down to the meat. And so I had to immediately remove him from the tank, because this will and can turn into infection. If there's usually some bacteria everywhere. This is a perfect home for bacteria. If it gets going on there, that can then also, of course, spread to other fish who might scrape themselves on a rock or get into a lip lock, and then that gets an infection. So I pulled him out right away and put him into the QT tank that he's in right now. He's in a quarantine tank. I'm treating him with some Maricin that was sent to me by the Aquarium Co-op. I'll be treating him for a week. He's very active. He is eating. My question is, who actually did this? I can't tell by looking at the tank and by having watched it the night before who the culprit was. So this happened like in the dark of night. Some fish just opened up a can of whoop ass on this sunshine, on this Benga, and I really don't know who. I mean, my first guess would be the Phoenix, who has been asserting himself up there in the upper, I guess to you that'd be upper right-hand corner, upper left-hand corner. The Phoenix, he's been asserting himself quite a bit since he got in the tank. At the same time, the strawberry, the little strawberry that was in the tank originally, the one I picked up from Petco, he's actually been some of the really the most aggressive fish of all of them, chasing everybody, and he's half the size of everybody else, and he's nipping and chasing. And fortunately, Skittles, the OB, will check him, and and sometimes the Bicolor 500, who's very passive otherwise, hangs out by the back of the tank, will actually check him. The other fish don't really seem that interested in getting into battles unless someone like the strawberry or the phoenix are chasing them. So it's still a bit of a mystery to me. If you catch a glimpse of the flame tail, you can see his tail has healed up very, very nicely. You can see it there. The Z-Rock keeps to himself. He just hangs out in the back, doesn't really make any trouble with anybody. Z-Rocks, in my experience, tend to be very, very shy and don't really want to get into it with anyone. Mine is no exception. I just fed them. There's a little bit of dust at the top of the food dust at the top of the tank there. So I'm a little bit at a loss. I don't know who did this, who destroyed his tail like that from one night to the following morning. It was quite a beating, and so it must have been relentless to get that kind of damage. And so before I reintroduce him to the tank, I mean, I'm keeping a close eye on the tank and really just trying to make sure that I can spot who the key aggressor is, because if I put him back, I don't want him to go ahead and get re-destroyed. I'll put him back with the lights out. I'll rearrange some of the decor. I'll move the rocks around. I'll try and create circumstances for him to get back in there peacefully. But I don't want to put him back in and have him immediately get destroyed again, because that'll be very, very, it's another beating like that. He might not survive it, or he might get other diseases may actually show up. And, he's fighting, he's putting up a good battle. And anyway, he's in the QT tank right now and he's doing okay. So he's eating, he's moving around, he's responding to the meds. I'll be medicating him until probably Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. The other tanks are doing great. I mean, there's my Jack Dempsey, electric blue Jack Dempsey. Spotted Severum is red spotted Severum, doing great. The Hecli, the AC Heclis are beautiful. And so are the Geophagus. The Geophagus Surinamensis are blossoming, starting to show more and more color. They're the Hecli and the Surinamensis, they're going to be gorgeous. In another quarantine tank, where I'm quarantining some of the new arrivals, that right there is a Vieja who is being harassed, and that's a red shoulder that's being harassed. They're both active at different points of the day. They come out and eat, but these two are just being brutal. These that Vieja and the other red shoulder, the interestingly enough, the two lighter colored ones are very dominant and chase the other two around. So I have two very dominant fish and two very subdominant fish. So the dominant ones will probably come out of quarantine first, and then I'll leave the other ones in quarantine, let them get stronger. This starry night here is just gorgeous. Everybody's ignoring him. You can see his fins are in great shape. Everybody's leaving him alone. I'll probably end up putting him in the South American tank. He's a Madagascar cichlid, not really a Rift Lake cichlid. But that's what's been going on here. And I've learned some lessons here in this whole process. And, when you put a lot of cichlids together all at once, which I hadn't done in the past, I definitely learned that there's going to be a sort out. And that sort out can sometimes have a lot to do with how they arrived. Some of the fish traveled better than others. Some of them arrived rather exhausted. And the ones that arrived a little bit meek and exhausted were definitely taken advantage of. And when the fish move into the different pecking order, they start to get into the different pecking order. It's it just creates a lot of problems. And the good news, though, the good news is that the problems do sort out. You know, the problems will sort out, and so you can't lose hope if you give it time. But you have to keep a real close eye on it, because in sorting out, what can happen is that one of them will get beat up too much. The flame tail was beat up a little bit. The deep water was a little beat up, but they recovered. They rebounded quickly. But when you see damage like was going on with the Benga Sunshine, you've got to be able to move quickly. So you got to have a quarantine tank ready, and ideally some meds, Maricin, API General Cure, Metroplex, some kind of a medication. Have it already at hand, so that which you should anyway. You should have these things available anyway, and quickly set up a QT tank. Move a piece of filter media out of one of your filters, drop it into there, put half tank water, half treated tap water that's temperature matched, put the fish in, and you're good to go. Let the fish recover his strength and get treated, and it'll sort out. Right now there's a balance. There's a balance in this tank behind me. Right here, there's over here, it's all backwards and upside down. Right here, there's a balance now. The little strawberry continues to chase fish and assert himself. He's got like that little Napoleon complex. You know, he's small, but he wants to let everybody know continuously that he's a tough guy. Fortunately, the OB, the Bicolor, and the Phoenix are checking him. In other words, they will get in between him and a fish that he's harassing. So if you have a and this is a case for stalking on the heavy side, because you'll have fish that start to assert themselves, but other fish, there's a mix, so they got to spread the aggression out. So that's a bit of a case for that. But besides that one fish, even the Phoenix has toned down a bit. I think the Phoenix got checked by the Bicolor, and so toned it down a little bit. Skittles, the OB has started to come around, and as you may know, OBs can be aggressive. So Skittles started asserting himself, and so that's checked, kind of keeping things in check. But the tank I had back in Los Angeles, the 150 gallon tank I had with the large haps, I had the ideal tank boss. I had a 10.5 inch, 10-inch Venusus that really asserted his position as the top fish. And once he became the top fish, he was peaceful. And that is the best possible scenario in an African cichlid tank, to have a boss that keeps order, but doesn't want any trouble otherwise. And when other fish would start to get into it, he would get in between, or if a fish would challenge him, he would knock him back quickly. I think an eye biter got over him for about a day, and then the Venusus turned it around on him and just took control again. So it's an adventure. It's an adventure. African cichlids are not for everybody. If you're faint of heart, if you don't like to see fish with fin damage, if you don't like to see fish chased around and be hurt, if you don't want to have a fish, if it breaks your heart entirely and completely to see a fish killed by another fish, I mean, you may want to consider something else. Maybe a tank that only has, like this one here, that maybe just Geophagus and Severums. Maybe throw an angel in there, maybe, I don't know. But African cichlids are definitely not for everybody. And with that being said, let me take a look at your comments. And it looks like we have 131 on the stream. Okay, good. I like it. See if we can get it up over 200. And let's see here. I'm going to go through the chat here. If you have any comments or questions, just go ahead and put them in the chat now. And by the way, some of you will notice if you look over my shoulder, I've added some controllers right in here, these two controllers. And I put a video out on it. They're controllers you can pick up. They're made by a company called True Temp. They're supposed to be the most accurate controllers out there, we'll see. But what it made me do is it made me, especially with this cold weather that's coming up, it made me pay real close attention to what's actually going on with the heating of my tanks. And so I have a digital thermometer made by a company called Taylor. You can see it here. This thing is super, super accurate. And so what I did is I went around and I cross-checked and verified temperatures. And what I discovered was that whether we're talking Aquatop or Cobalt, and I imagine it might be the same with Eheim and other ones, the heaters were actually lying to me. I'm going to put out a video on it. I think that might be the title of it, Heaters Lie. The heaters were telling me that they were settled in at 78 or they were settled in at 80. And then when I do a digital check of the tank, I discovered that my tank is actually running at 77, or it's running at 76, 75. That's a very big discrepancy. And in order to get the tanks to the temperature that I wanted, and in anticipation of an upcoming cold snap, I had to crank the heaters up. Now, adding power heads might be a good idea. I mean, the heaters are next to the bubblers that are creating circulation. But in a tank, in a long tank, you could conceivably have some cold spots. But I was taking my measurements from the middle of the tank, and this came about because the actual True Temp controllers, after I calibrated them, by calibrating I mean it has a function where you take a temperature of the tank and then you calibrate the sensor to make sure that the sensor is reading accurately. I calibrated the True Temp controllers and found that they were giving me a reading that was very different from my heaters. So I had to crank the heaters up to like 80, 82 degrees to get 78 degrees in my tank. So my recommendation is if you have tanks in an area that can get chilly. Now my garage can get a little bit cold. I have a heater running in here. If I have the door open between the garage and the house, it can be okay. I have the garage door insulated, but it can drop. It can be in the 60s in here, maybe the 50s in a real cold snap. I'd say 60s probably, because I come down here in a t-shirt. Usually it's not too cold. But if you have a tank in a cold area, I suggest that you get your hands on a digital thermometer and check your tank temperature and compare it to your heater. You might find that your heater is telling you that you're stable at 80, but in fact, your tank is 76 or 77, pretty far off from where you thought you'd be. So anyway, that's a little bonus tip. I'm probably going to talk about it in an upcoming video entitled Heaters Are Liars. And, these heaters are following the, 3 watts per gallon. It's not like I'm underheating, but that might be another tip. I mean, maybe we should go 5 watts per gallon. Maybe that would be better. Maybe 5 watts per gallon with power heads that run at least 6 to 8 hours a day on a timer that circulate water so you don't get cold spots, so that the areas furthest away from the heater are at the same temperature. And these are just things to keep in mind, especially for me, because they're anticipating 10 degrees. We're supposed to be hitting around 10 degrees next week. So that might drive my garage even further down. So I've got to make sure my heaters are spot on, are doing what they're supposed to be doing, or I'm going to have some fish that are chilled out. Now, that being said, I do tend to run my African cichlids a little bit on the cooler side, closer to 78 than 80, because I've heard that helps with aggression. That if they're a little bit, if they're cooler as opposed to warmer, they're going to be less aggressive. I don't know if that's true or not. All I know is that I have had cichlid tanks that have run for considerable amounts of time without horrible violence at 78 degrees. So that's what I tend to do. Right now they're running at 78.5 and 77.5, and the heaters are telling me that they are set and stable at 80 and 82 degrees. That's what the heaters are telling me. This heater here is telling me it's 80 and established at 80. This heater is telling me it's set up at 80. I'm sorry, it's back. Yeah, this one is 82. The heater says it's 82. This one, the heater says it's 80, but there's 77 and 78.5 is what is actually going on. So something to be aware of. So let's take a look at some of your comments, and I appreciate the 155 of you that are on the stream. And did I miss a super chat? Remember, today's largest super chat, regardless of how much, I don't care how much it is, $5, $10, I don't care how much it is, but today's largest super chat is going to be getting a $25 gift certificate from the Cichlid Shack, along with one of these towels from the Aquarium Co-op for your fish room, and a sticker or two. So just keep that in mind on the super chats. Yes, I'm bribing you. All right, so let's see what else here. Let's go into the chat, and let me get back to the chat. I'm looking at the chat on YouTube so that it's not distracting on the screen. And hey, Vinny, welcome to the stream, Vinny. I'm going to scroll through some of your questions and pick them up. Yeah, EKOED, echoed. Corey said he never floated Africans in the tank because it brings out pre-aggression. He would float them in a bucket separately. Always thought that was a good advice. I've never seen that before. I understand though what he's talking about, because when you have these cichlids in the bag, other fish are already sizing them up, and I can't wait to get my hands on you, So it kind of makes sense to me that would be a case, but I've never seen that before. I have seen when he comes back from collection trips and stuff, I do see him floating. But anyway, interesting. So maybe he moves the water into a bucket, like a water from the tank for maybe a temperature match bucket. It wouldn't matter, I guess, if the water's treated. It doesn't matter. I guess if the temperature of the bucket's good, you match it up, and then you just simply flop and drop them into the tank. I could see that. I could see how that would work, and kind of get all the fish by surprise. Let's see here. Tony, we have not even started, and somebody put a thumb down. Tony, trolls will troll. That's what they do. They troll. Didn't like the thumbnail, I guess. I don't know. Who knows? It's kind of a sad life. Let's see. Jordan LaBelle, minus 27 right now in eastern Montana. Oh my goodness. So if you had a failure with your heater, everybody would be frozen there, I guess. Tony loves his stickers. Awesome. Frankie, morning from New York City. Hello, Frankie. I miss going to New York City. I used to go there regularly on business, and I miss it. Let's see. I'm scrolling down for your questions. R. Baglio? Is R. Baglio here? Hey, R. Baglio. Texas Fish Room is here. Jeff, I'm glad you're on the chat. I'm glad you're here, Jeff. Jeff Self. How do you stop a blue? How do you stop a blue cichlid from chasing other cichlids? I don't know. I mean, you can't really stop the chasing. There's nothing really you can do to stop the chasing, except keep an eye on it. Make sure that it's not being destructive. In other words, is there fin damage? Do other fish show marks on their sides where they've been hit, where they've been torpedoed? If you're not seeing damage, keep an eye on it and hope that it tones down. You can rearrange decor, maybe change territories a little bit, maybe lower the temperature to 78 degrees. If it doesn't stop and it bothers you a lot, you probably have to pull that fish out. You may have to rehome either the fish that's chasing, or if there's a particular fish he's chasing, move that fish out. Unfortunately, if you have a fish that's very, very aggressive like that, chances are that if you, let's say, give him a timeout and then put him back in, he's going to pick up where he left off. He's going to start going after fish again. And if you move the fish he was chasing out, he'll probably pick another one to chase. So now that being said, sometimes they'll chase a fish that is very similar to them. So let's say you have a blue neon and a Bicolor 500. They can look very similar. A flavescent can look similar sometimes. So they might pick on each other thinking that they have competition. Do you have females in the tank? If you have females in the tank, that could be helping to bring it out. They're competing for the ability to be the dominant male to breed with that female. So maybe remove females. I mean, there's a few strategies you can take. Are they going to be successful? I can't. Again, it's a coin toss with African cichlids. I hope that helped. Oh man, the life of an African cichlid keeper, right? So I'm going through the chat here again. Let's see here. Ivan Ojeda. Hello, Ivan Ojeda wants to know. It says, hello, all fish friends. Is there a difference when using lava rocks versus fluval biorings on an FX6? I hope you get to read my question. You know, if you talk to fluval, of course, they're going to tell you that there's a lot of research that went into the development of this media. It's they're going to make a case that makes sense, to you. If you survey a lot of fish keepers and you've had interaction with a lot of fish keepers like I have over the years through emails and chats and what have you, over at the Ben O Cichlid group over on Facebook. But what you'll find is that a lot of folks are using a variety of media, of different kinds of media, from just sponges to broken up pieces of lava rock. I mean, I think Joey, the king of DIY, did a whole video on his favorite inexpensive media, and I think it was broken up lava rock. You know, you have things like matrix, which are it's very expensive, right? I think is it Seacam matrix? Very, very expensive. But some people argue that that's just garden pumice. But when you when you talk with CCAM, they'll tell you that it's, it's specially selected lava that they make sure is fish safe. But then you talk to other people and they go, just go to the garden shop, buy a big bag of white pumice and throw it in, put it in a mesh bag and throw it in your filter. I did that and I had good success. I had a very stable 100-gallon cichlid tank running for years. And in the FX6 was a big bag of a garden pumice, which, you get a 30-pound bag for like, I don't know, 15, 20 bucks. It's compared to, $20 for a little bit of matrix. So I hope that answers your question. I think that, I think you wouldn't do, I don't think you would harm anything if you used, sponges, scrubbers. If you use scrubbers, if you used just sponges, different coarse and medium and fine sponges, you'd probably be okay. You'd probably have enough bacteria. In my case, and again, going completely against the grain, I'm developing bacteria in my substrate. That's right. I don't mess with the substrate. The fish mess with it, but it's deep enough where I have a section at the bottom that is low oxygen and is, I hope we'll know over time, is developing anaerobic bacteria. And that is where I count on the bulk of my beneficial bacteria to be. So let's see here. GP, one of my moderators here, is mentioning that his fish grew up together, and because they grew up together, in growing up, there were battles, people trying to get into the pecking order, but now that they're grown up, they've settled into, and that's, I've heard a lot of folks have success that way. It doesn't mean that something can't change, but a lot of folks report that if you grow them up together, but as they're growing up, one of them can die and you really like that fish, you want to replace them, so you have to go buy a medium-sized one. Maybe you fall in love with the fish a year and a half down the road, and you want to add them to the collection. So, there's a lot of moving parts, unless you're willing to just stay with that original group forever. There are going to be changes, and you have to be aware of how to do it. When I added a single fish to an established group of fish that were getting along, I always knew that there was going to be some trouble initially. I would add them and I would leave the lights out so that they would kind of chill, so that when the lights came on, it would be like, okay, it was always there. I'd rearrange decor sometimes, make sure they were well fed, make sure there are no females in the tank. So, I added a large trout. I added a large hawk. I added a large eye biter, to a group that was getting along. And so, and in some cases, I had to pull some fish out. I had to move a Z-Rock out of my larger tank. I had to move the Autopharynx tetra stigma out of that tank because it just got a little bit too rough for them. So again, another suggestion I could make is to have other tanks running that you can shuffle, have a, sort of a grow out, more peaceful tank, have your larger, more aggressive tank, things of that nature. I am in the middle of discussions right now on a 220 gallon and two 125s. So if I have the 220, I'll probably have the largest predators in there because I do want to get into big predators, right? Your Malawi trouts, your Venusus. I want to get into some big predators, put them in the 220, have the 125s available for my larger South Americans and, fish that I need to shuffle back and forth with the haps and peacocks. So, there's a plan evolving here in my fish room that is going to be expanding in a horseshoe around me. And then I'll be able to give live streams from different angles. Right now, what I have around me are QT tanks. So anyway, Good comment, GP. I appreciate that. You are appreciated, my friend, especially for the work that you do. These moderators, they work on a volunteer basis, and they are very appreciated. Anthony Thompson says, I've been keeping cichlids for a year now. I'm hooked. They are very addictive. I had a video a long time ago where I talked about how they're like crack, you know. They should be called crack cichlids. If I had a fish store, I'd probably give away a cichlid or two, like in the beginning. I'd be like, you know, like the first taste is free, you know. Come on down, you know, one free Fusco, you know, come on, I'll give you a free Fusco. And that's it. You got him. He's hooked. He'll be back for more. So but there's far worse things you could be addicted to, believe me. So GP says you can overstock your tank. It's fine. And you know, overstocking, it's you get different controversies about overstocking, and you certainly get a heavy bioload. So with overstocking comes overfiltering. You better filter the heck out of that tank. You better never miss a beat on your maintenance. You better increase the volume of your water changes, either by doing a 20-30% water change twice a week, or doing a once a week 60-70%. You got to really stay on top of it. But if it spreads around aggression and your fish can live together in as much tranquility as African cichlids can, then it might be worth it. All right, let's continue here along with the, did I miss a super chat? I think I did. Hey, Paul Bowen, thank you so much for that super chat, my friend. And you are welcome. You are welcome about that email. It was my pleasure to help you. If you would like to email me about something, you can. I may not get back to you immediately, but I will get back to you. And it's ben.o.cichlid@gmail. ben.o.cichlid@gmail. And let's go through the chat some more here. This is a good comment here. I'm going to pin it. And this is from Natasha Boy. Natasha Boy, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Or Bowie. Natasha. I'll just call you Natasha. How's that? Many people worry about hiding places when trying to tone down aggression. I have found out, though, my experience, that the best thing to do is break up the line of sight. For example, using some, and I imagine you're talking about rocks or plants or things like that. And yeah, I run the tanks with broken lines of sight. That's something I do. I use the plants from Elite Cichlids, and I use rocks from time to time. Give them a place to where they can actually get away. I am scrolling down here. Dice 80, good morning. I have film on my aquarium glass that I cannot remove. I've tried a magic eraser and razor blades. Nothing works. Wow. Okay. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what, if you've tried those two things, magic erasers and razor blades, is the tank empty? Do you have fish in it? Is it on the outside? Is it on the inside? I've heard some good things about, and I have used in the past with brand new tanks, glass tanks. I think it's called Barkeeper's Helper. I've heard good things about that, and I have used it with glass tanks. Not sure if I'd use it with acrylic because it might be a little abrasive on acrylic, but with glass might work. And try that Barkeeper's. Barkeeper's might work, but if you've used a razor blade, I've heard vinegar. Vinegar sometimes, put the vinegar on and then let it sit for a little while, and then get in there and give it a good rub with a cloth, soft cloth. You can get into the point where you're trying so hard with so much that you end up scuffing it. It may actually be scuffed, in which case you can buff it out. And there are ways of buffing out both acrylic and glass, but you're getting into a whole different topic. So charista, 75-gallon Mabuna tank, added 12 of them and 5 later in a cycled tank. Some of them are growing big and some like Electric Lab, a couple of them still same size. We've talked about this before. You can end up just like you can end up with a puppy litter. You can end up with runts. You can have runts. It depends on the stock that you bought that was delivered to you. You can end up with fish that'll grow large. You can end up with some runts, some runts in the litter. And you can also look at when they feed. The dominant fish might be getting to all the food, and so your little guys are not able to get to the food. So you have to get a little bit creative. Watch very closely when you're feeding. What I do is I feed to the far side. I'll feed to one side, then I'll feed way to the other side, and then I'll confuse the fish. I'll put a little in the middle, a little bit in the back corners, a little bit in the front center, and that way I know that I throw some of the pellets down hard so they sink fast. I let some of them float so they're eating off the bottom, off the middle, off the top, and that might help. That might help because maybe the little guys are not able to get to the food, but you can end up with runts. I mean, it's so it might be genetics, or it might also be a feeding issue. So check to see if they're being harassed. That might also be an issue. Are those fish that are smaller under stress? Because stress creates all kinds of symptoms in fish. You can have illness, bloat, all kinds of stuff. If they're under stress, anything that could possibly go wrong will go wrong. And I imagine blossoming, coloring up and growing and having beautiful fins, all of that will be inhibited if they're being harassed, chased around, and being kept away from food. I used to have a pseudotropheus when I used to keep Mabuna, and the pseudotropheus would clear out the entire tank during feeding time. Nobody could get near the food. He would chase everyone away, and so only he would be where the food was going to drop. So this is where I ended up having to feed in a very creative fashion. Unfortunately, if you don't have a very large tank, you're going to be very limited in how much of that you can do. If you have a 6-foot tank and you can drop food, 5 feet apart, 5 feet gap between it, everybody can pretty much get to the food somehow, especially if you're dropping it hard and having it drop fast. Some of it's floating. Everyone's going to get to the food. A smaller tank, you're dealing with even a 55 or a 29 or something like that. One fish can really dominate feeding time, and you're gonna have fish they're not gonna get to the food. Ezekiel says vinegar works, and yeah, I found that vinegar can work. And let's see here. I'm going through your comments. Hello to you, Mary Page Flynn. I'm glad you're here. Always glad when you show up. I'm very glad to see a lot of you chiming in on helping out each other with things like getting that stain out of that aquarium. We all learn from each other. Even in these live streams, I see the chat conversations that are going on, and I love it. I mean, some of you know my whole purpose here in doing this is to help and educate, and the theme the motto is always be learning, and I take that seriously. I think we should always be learning, and I've certainly gone through a big learning curve here with South Americans. Recently, with adding a lot of cichlids all at once to the African tank, and the setting up of a fish room. I mean, it's been nothing but learning for me. Even doing these live streams. I mean, you can ask my moderators. The first month or two of live streaming was, it was a kind of a wild ride. Always be learning. All right, let's see here. I'm checking your comments. Lorenzo, thank you for the thumbs up. Vinny, Chevy Fish, thumbs up flying around. Vinny is working on that sign, and he's going to be doing a sign that's probably going to be hanging back in here over my shoulder. We're going to have a very beautiful sign up there, courtesy of Vinnies Aquatics. Check out Vinnies Aquatics on YouTube. He's got a channel. And if I missed a super chat, hey Todd Hobson, appreciate all you do and the content you put out. Keep it up. Thank you, Todd. I appreciate that. I appreciate the super chat. Every little bit helps, and helps keep the channel rolling along. Okay, so any other questions that you have? Go ahead and ask them now. Oh, Candi, you had to remind me of the upside down live stream. Upside down live stream. I think that one is still up too. If you go through don't share the link though. You better not share the link, Candi. Oh my God. Okay. Hey, Remco comes in with 10. Hey, Ben, happy for you to be back in ACs. You know, Remco, I didn't know how much I missed African cichlids until I got that tank filled up again with African cichlids. I come down here so many times during the day. I turn this chair around and I just sit here and just, I mean, I look at both of the tank. I'm not neglecting my South American cichlids. I love what's going on in that tank, but I just love the activity level, the Autopharynx tetra stigma. This is the funniest Autopharynx tetra stigma I've ever had. What he does is he takes a running start and he jams his face. I'm talking all the way down to the eyes into the substrate and comes out with this mouthful of substrate, and then goes up real high and then snows it over the other fish. And the other fish think it's food, so they're going after it. I mean, it's just hilarious. So I'm just having a great time watching these guys, and also, you know, figuring out the pecking order. I'm trying to figure out who's the boss. There's no one definitive boss so far. I know that nobody messes with the Bicolor 500, but the Bicolor 500 kind of hangs out in the back. So he's not really running the show. He's not like the Venusus that was constantly patrolling my 150. So I can't really say he's the boss, but nobody messes with him. The little strawberry is very, very assertive. The Phoenix that I got from James Largo is very assertive as well, but he's getting checked now. Other fish are checking him. As they're getting their strength. So it's a work in progress. And so I really didn't realize how much I missed the excitement about, you know, that is provided by African cichlids until I got back into them. Ben helped me talk the fish daddy into a 125. Carrie, you have to negotiate. Figure out something that person would love, and that is still pending, and offer to make that happen. And you know, I've had to paint, I've had to move things around, I've had to do big projects, and now that I have a fish room in the garage, I'm sort of autonomous, so I'm finally free of bartering and negotiating. But you know, There's got to be something that Fish Daddy wants. Uh, Remco, people don't realize that these Protomelos, like your Red Empress, right? Your fire haps, the Taiwan reefs. These guys can be really vicious, and they get bulky. They get big and round, and they're part vegetarian, and they need a little veg, but that doesn't mean they're not aggressive. They are tough fish, and I've had tanks where Protomelos have actually been in charge, and they can be tough. Leo Rodriguez, just got my first tank this week. The fish come Tuesday. Was ordering online from Aqua Live. A good choice. I'm not familiar with, if anybody here has had experience with Aqua Live, go ahead and share your experience. I haven't ordered from them, so I can't comment. I look, what's their dead on arrival policy? If something arrives dead, do they exchange it without question, as long as you provide them with a photo? I don't know. I mean, what's the shipping? How fast do they get it to you? Do they overnight? Do they send it by 2-day? Look at the packaging. Were there heat packs in there? I mean, there's a lot of factors to consider. I haven't used them, so I can't comment. I really can't comment. And so let's see here. All right. So I think what I'll do at this point, if anyone has any other questions you would like to throw at me, throw them up there right now. Who needs radio when you can listen to Ben O live stream on the way to pick up a star sapphire? I love it. You know what? I was thinking of something. If you have a fish store, I know some folks like Super Cichlids and James over at the Cichlid Shack. If you have a fish store with a screen and you're playing a live stream or any of my videos, send me a picture and I will go ahead and put your picture up and promote your store, because I love to hear stories like people tell me, hey, I went into this fish store and they're playing one of your videos on the screen. So if you have a fish shop or you know a fish shop, tell them to take a picture of one of my videos on their screen. I'll go ahead and throw it up, and we'll do a little free promo for them, and it's kind of a win-win. So don't throw away your radio, Echo, but I do appreciate it. And Leo Contreras, still not used to the earlier live stream. Would you folks prefer, I'm going to throw this out there, and you tell me what you think. Would you folks prefer that I start an hour later? Let's just do a very quick survey. Would you prefer that I start at 11 Central? That's noon East Coast time. And I got to pay attention to the East Coast, because when I look at demographics, I have a lot of folks in the Northeast, in particular in New York. So noon East Coast time, 11 Central, 9 a.m. Pacific. Would that work better for you folks? If you think so, go ahead and comment on the chat now, or comment in the comments under the video after this post to YouTube. I will take it to heart. Especially, I want to hear from my moderators, Candi, GP, Denny. I wouldn't want you folks to not be able to make it because of the time. Let me know if starting an hour earlier. Texas Fish Room already chimes in. No, keep the time you're doing. Daniel says yes. GP, I think, likes it. I vote for 1 hour later. Cat Sailor. Francie likes this time. Leo Rodriguez, 11 Central, much better. Yeah, go ahead and comment, and I will take your comments to heart, because I can start at 11. I mean, that's not going to be a massive change for me. It's not like we have plans usually around this time. My wife works on Saturdays, so I can start anytime and 11 o'clock works fine for me. Now, the other question I have for you is, would, okay, Candi, your vote has a lot of weight, you know that. Would another live stream during the week, perhaps an evening live stream, would that be of interest to you? If so, go ahead and comment in the chat or comment in the video after it posts to YouTube. I'd love to hear about that as well. So with all of that being said, I would like to thank all of you for showing up today, and also to go ahead and invite you to follow on Facebook at Ben O' Cichlid. That's a great Facebook group that is very helpful. We keep the trolls out of it. The way we keep the trolls out of it is that there's a short questionnaire before you join. You have to answer all the questions, especially the one about do you agree to follow the rules. We have probably 50, 75 folks that are not let in each month because they failed to answer the last question. I hate to see it, but you got to answer all the questions or the moderators don't let you in. It's how we keep trolls out. And also you can follow on Ben O' Cichlid on Instagram, where I post previews, behind the scene things like that I don't post anywhere else. And don't forget to hit the sub button. We're still running at around 69, 70% unsubbed watching the content. You're all appreciated whether you're subbed or not, but it definitely helps if you hit the sub and the notification bell. It tells YouTube that you're getting something out of the channel, and encourages YouTube to recommend the channel to other fish keepers. So thank you so much for tuning in. You rock, you're appreciated, and I hope to see you next week. Tune in tomorrow, a video on ammonia spikes and adding lots of fish at once, with some tips on the exact steps that I took to keep these fish healthy, apart from the one that got beat up, to keep these fish healthy, even though I added a lot of fish all at once, fish that definitely added a larger bioload than the available beneficial bacteria. How did I weather that so that I still have healthy, strong fish? Watch the video tomorrow morning, and you'll see the exact steps I took to be able to add that many fish and have no casualties. Okay? Hope to see you next Saturday, and that's it for me. Thank you so much.